Mix and paint?
Yeah, a little bit. Luckily, I mixed up a bunch of the umber and whites and stuff that I was using before.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. This is I have 3 of the fast matte colors from Gamblin, the black, the white, and the raw umber, because I tend to use a lot of those.
Black, white, and raw umber?
Yeah. And so whenever I mix those with anything, they tend to dry faster.
Gotcha. Oh, because they're fast matte?
Fast matte, yeah.
Ooh.
What?
Ah!
What happened?
Nothing. I touched something. And I messed it up. Sorry.
Oh, did it stop?
No, it's still working. Hello, everyone.
Oh, everyone's there?
Yes, people are joining us. You are on to oils now, right?
Well, yeah, because I'm working on that.
Right.
I don't really have anything I'm drawing this week. I mean, right now. So instead of using those metal tubes that you mix paint and keep extra in, I just use these Dixie cup things.
Condiment.
They're condiment
holders.
cups, yeah. It works because I don't usually mix enough to fill a whole tube, but I might mix enough to fill like a 1 ounce of these things. You know?
Mm-hmm. I don't know why my thing is doing that.
What's it doing?
I don't know. It's like going sideways. Ruby says you have a beautiful accent. Sounds like Jeremy Irons.
Oh, thank you very much. I've lived a lot of places, so my accent can sometimes come across as neutral depending on where I'm at. I mean, anywhere in the States, I have a fairly neutral accent, which having a neutral accent will actually exclude you from certain areas of where like most people wouldn't know that I spent a lot of time in the South, but I also spent a whole lot of time in the North, so I end up with a sort of a weird muted
Neutral
version,
accent?
muted version of both of those. So.
Yes. There's your spongy thing.
My incredibly disorganized palette.
It's okay. Someone said, genius. I love I Just Draw.
Oh, thank you.
So much inspiration.
That's very kind. Very kind.
Usually I don't get to see this messy part. He is working on a painting. You ready?
It's a larger piece. It's 24 by 36.
Mm-hmm. For the Copper Show. It's hard to see him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about oil. It gets to be a lot of glare. So.
Oh.
Is that thunder or people doing fireworks?
I think it's both. You gonna paint tonight?
A little, yeah, somewhat. I mean, I'm not drawing really, so.
Ian says, my 4-year-old Emily is watching. She has 3 of your dragons hanging in a room.
The older ones?
Probably, if she's 4 years old, yes. Probably the cute dragons, right, Ian? Oh, Ian Joyner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we have others, but in a 4-year-old's room, I would think it would be the cute ones that I used to do.
Probably.
So this is basically just a warm gray.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually mostly umber and just a little bit of black and with a little bit of white. Both of those things thrown in to change the temperature and gray it out more. Because that's very. It looks very brown.
It is, yeah.
But it's actually, I guess most of the brown from this is from the acrylic underpainting, because most of what I'm painting on top of it has been, I probably just got...
Stuff on your head?
Do I have burnt sienna on my head?
I don't think you have burnt sienna on your head.
It's on the glove. So.
Yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, it is on your head.
Is it?
It's over your left eye. Over your left eyebrow. You need a new glove?
It's burnt sienna, so it's not like it's not like cadmium. But
Right.
right now,
Cheers from New York City.
Oh, hello, New York. Or I should look at the camera. Hello, New York.
Yes. Melinda said she took your advice and is drawing a little every day.
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Like my kid came to me, my Dumpling, came to me a couple of nights ago and said something about wanting to learn how to draw something specific. And I said, you take 10 minutes a day. Huh? You take, here, 10 minutes a day, 10 to 15 minutes a day if you have no other time. And just start with that and see what catches hold,
Right.
Basically, it's doing that 10 to 15 minutes a day thing is sort of a trick to get you involved in it so that eventually, you get over, the start and get hooked on doing it. Eventually get hooked onto doing it.
Yes. You got Italy and Australia here also.
Oh, that's cool. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law are in Australia right now. Yeah. Alan's from Blackwater. I think.
Says, I feel like I'm in a class at the very loved University of I Just Draw.
That's awesome.
Oh, in India.
India. I love it that people come from all over and then that people say hi.
In Louisiana.
Louisiana, not too far away.
Nope, next door.
We're in the Bay Area in Mississippi right now.
Right.
And Ocean Springs.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Chile and Peru.
This is my weird mall mechanism.
Oh yeah, I know.
So I made a rail up here,
Oh yeah.
which sits in and slides around, and it actually turns on that.
Oh, that's nice.
But there's enough room that, see, it's normally made to sit flush against this bottom rail. But if I put a board here, there's enough room that it'll angle out. I just don't lean on it down here because then it'll
Pop out.
off.
It'll pop out.
Can you see from over there?
I can see. I'll move over here a little. I'll move the chair. Hold on. Everyone's naming off where they're from, and I'm excited and astounded.
That's awesome. I love it.
I know. Trinidad and Tobago, Tampa, Florida, Arkansas, the Philippines, Russia,
That's cool.
Macedonia. It's 4 a.m. there.
Huh? It's 4 a.m. in Macedonia, and they're
Yes.
here, and they're watching this. That's
Red River, New Mexico.
it's amazing.
Kev says, y'all are amazing. Hope to find a partner that supports me like this. I just draw you're beautiful, but I know it takes beautiful surroundings and a beautiful mind. Hope I'll be lucky and hard working.
I couldn't do anything that I do without Vicky too. She's the one that manages everything and does what I call most of the hard stuff, because it actually is very difficult for me to, focus on, the business aspect of it. Probably in part because she's allowed that. If I were, if she weren't around, I hope that I would find a way to make a balance of it on my own.
You would figure it out.
But that being said, you never can tell.
That being said,
I might be
giving
a car
you
salesman
my
at this point.
I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice.
Nothing.
You're gonna have to find some.
Nothing wrong with doing anything else.
No.
I'm just saying that I might not be able to.
You got Uruguay, Seattle, Brazil, France,
That's awesome.
Brazil, Canada, Santa Rosa, Costa Rica, Texas. Everybody from everywhere.
See, people talk a lot about how
Denver, Uruguay, New Mexico.
the world going digital has decreased people's interaction physically, socially. But the thing is that before digital, before being able to go on to social media, I didn't interact with people anyway. So
No,
this has only increased my ability to interact with people. So I can't rightfully complain about it. And I think that generations coming up, they're going to grow with this medium as a part of their cultural background.
Right.
And it'll just be something that they do. And to them, interacting socially through digital media it won't be hollow to like people who, the older generations who enjoy being face to face with people. I mean, they enjoy it in a different way. And some
Right.
people, who get into it, they enjoy it in a different way. And it's not hollow. in that respect. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, I would probably not know half of what I know about what's going on, or not even that. I wouldn't know a third of what's going on in most of the people's lives that I know if it weren't for me, for the social media.
Right.
Because I'm not around them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because we traveled so much and made friends from so many different places. You know? I think...
Guatemala says hi.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Veronica says, I love you.
Oh, and we love you too.
There's Paraguay. Hari said, I woke up now and it's morning. Your morning inspiration for India.
Oh, cool.
Is in India.
India. Oh, wow.
Colorado. Everybody from everywhere. So everyone in all different times.
That's
Ink Attacked said they ordered the powdered graphite and clay bore. Can't wait to try. Let's see if I can get a good image of this guy.
Just remember that if you get frustrated using it, that's part of the process.
I know.
It's part of it. Because it's when I first started playing with it, it didn't want to do anything I wanted it to do. To the degree that I didn't know if it could. But I kept playing with it, and I kept seeing little things happen accidentally that I said to myself, if I can make that happen on purpose, then I can make something out of this, you know. And I started being able to figure out how to make certain things happen on purpose, and then how to make the things happen that I wanted to make happen, you know. If that makes sense.
Montreal, Canada.
So normally I'm sitting down when I'm talking.
I know. Telestrated said your pigtails made my life.
Oh. You know, I started it. Me and my daughter were talking about superheroes, and she was saying something about whether or not superheroes could have pigtails. And I think I told her, I said, if I were a superhero, I would demand to have pigtails. and nobody could stop me. And so I just said, you know, I'll go ahead and do that so that she can understand that if she wants to wear pigtails, she can still be whatever she wants to be or whatever.
Yes.
And
let's see if I can. I don't want to be in your light, though.
So this is me. Like, I'm kind of in this phase where I'm like thinking about the piece, and as I think about it, as I think about what I'm doing, I'll noodle areas that I know kind of what I want to play with, you know, like where I want details to go and stuff. So it's not that I even consider thinking, like, some of this might even get painted out, but as I'm thinking about the piece, I'm just kind of letting my hand play with little things that it finds. And I'll sort of put down a little wet paint, and then I have a second brush where I'll go back and kind of
do another one.
Just soften it, blend it in, and see if it looks in place or out of place or whatever. And if it's out of place, I can I have little sponge things that I can wipe it out.
Wipe it off.
Yeah. And if I like it, I leave it. And if I find that there's something that I keep coming back to, I really, sometimes it takes a while to determine if it's because I like it or because I don't like it.
Right.
Like I keep coming back to the secondary shape here, which I think I'm probably going to paint it out entirely because it's conflicting in such a short space.
Yeah, I like the guy's head.
Yeah, this would be the head shape, and this.
But you've kind of lost his eye sockets there, then.
Well, they're down there. But this is still. I'm still only working with like about what about? It's not even really close to black yet, and so I still have a lot of range and the value to play with, picking out certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But this is likely going to leave, I think, just because it looks out of place.
That's always interesting to see what.
Oh, when I do stuff like.
Ah! Jesus! Don't do. Now you're just doing that for the camera.
Oh, well, I'm doing it for you too, because I like to hear you say.
You're killing me.
So you can't be shy about it. I mean, if it's something that's not working, I mean, the thing about paint is if you painted it once, you can paint it again. What?
Oh my God.
Well, the thing about paint is if you painted it once, you can paint it again. It's, I mean, unless you're doing like that really chaotic textural thing, right? Where accidents happen and you want to keep it, right? Well, most of this texture is a byproduct of brushing on like a glaze to make everything lighter. It wasn't in, so much that I was trying to produce a lot of happy accidents. I was just looking around. So getting that out of my head now, though, my eye doesn't keep going back to it, but I know that I'm going to do something there.
They're laughing at you and doing little like shocked faces.
Well,
someone said that hurt.
Well, you know what? It does. I mean, it didn't. I didn't. It's not like I didn't feel it too, because I did spend some time with looking at that area and deciding
and painting it.
But I knew, like when I started today, that I was going to paint it out, and that this area was going to change. And since I've kept my palette really simple, because it's only raw umber, black and white. That's really all that it is. Then I can go back in and repaint anything I want. Like, that may come back in a different way, or it may not come back at all. It might turn into something else.
Right.
You know, the shape is going to have a different function. Or it might go darker and be a deeper, like a hole, you know, instead of protrudence.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of questions here.
Yes.
I saw Copro popped on. This is for the gallery show with Copro.
Yeah.
Which is on August 11th.
August 11th in Santa Monica at the Copro Gallery.
Along with the group show Personal Gods.
So.
All right. Someone asked, how long does a piece this size usually take?
It took me 3 days to decide what I wanted to paint. I guess if you count that, I mean, it'll probably take me, ended up taking me about 10 to 14 days to finish, total, from beginning to end.
Sure.
You know? So.
And I'm behind him going, no, it's got to be faster.
Well, she always says that.
Well, now we're getting down to the time where it's got to dry before it chips off, and
I'll just drive it up.
You're killing me.
I still have other things too that I'm working on. So.
This painting is on fire. Your studio is awesome. I'm gonna have to get an easel like that. This is
I've had this for a long time.
built-on easel.
Yeah, this is actually one of those Santa Fe 2 easels that has 2 upright bars in the back that I mounted a big piece of board to. And I push it all the way back against the wall because I lean like crazy on work when I'm working on it, and anywhere else it moves, even with the legs locked. So I lean it back against the wall, and I do this because I don't know, I tend to like to have a backdrop for the piece rather than being able to see through the slats of the uprights.
It makes you nervous.
Yeah, a little bit.
How do you come out with your art? And do you get ideas from other images, or is all your art from your imagination?
It's a little bit of everything. I do get inspired from other images. I get inspired from other artists, and I definitely will sit around and just play with things until something comes out sometimes. Like this, I don't have them out right now, but I'll have to post it. I have a photo series where this actually started off as a little tiny profile of a woman's head this big with an embellishment. And so it started off this big, changed to something else like 5 times until it became this, at this size.
That large size. Yeah. It is 24 by 36. Do you create the story as you're working, or do you have a pre-concept? I would love it if you had everything sketched out.
Most of the time, though, the narrative happens as I'm working. You know, there are times when I have a book of things that I've written down that are waiting to be, I don't want to say illustrated, but waiting to be brought to life, illuminated and
painted and drawn or painted. Yeah. How do you fight the feeling to work faster when you have no deadline? You always have a deadline.
I sort of set my own deadlines in a way. I look at, I pick an artist that I like, and I see that they produce a lot of work, and then I find out how long it took them to produce the work that they did, and if it's of a certain level and detail as to what I'm trying to accomplish myself, then I think I should be able to probably produce a piece in that relative time. Mm-hmm. And so my strategy for these is to aim at 10 days, but it's almost always a little, on a piece like this, it's almost always bigger. But the artist, like I was looking at the Beksinski video Online Diaries on YouTube, and a lot of his pieces he worked on, he would work on them for about 10 days from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. Of course, that's after having worked the way that he worked for years, and painting a hell of a lot more than I ever had. So you have to allow that experience that he had to come into play too. But it's a good target, It's like when I don't have a deadline, there's an old phrase that we used to like to say that if you don't have a deadline, the work expands to fill the space.
Oh yeah.
So whatever the deadline is, that's pretty much how much time you'll give yourself to do the work.
Yep. If it's 2 months, your next big show, it'll take you.
And granted, if you're working on stuff for yourself, you will always allow yourself to take extra time if you need it. And to be honest, that's one of the benefits of doing work for yourself, is that if you say this isn't good enough yet and I want to take another 10 days on it, you should.
Then you can.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate anatomy in an abstract design?
Sometimes I sort of start with a relative human anatomy, and then like with a lot of pieces I've done, I've just I guess I incorporate realistic anatomy into it because of the technique of the painting style. Like this can be fairly smooth, and if I did a realistic figure here or a realistic arm, then I know I'd have to either let it stand as a sort of a metaphor in terms of like this, or how do you say it, like a collage type piece, because you set sort of a bar in a piece as to what the realism is going to be by how you paint it. And if you did an expression, like a piece that was done with light express, like the like Monet or Manet or those guys, and then to interject a hyper-realistic piece, well, unless you have a reason to do that in your work and that's your style, it'll stand out, right? And maybe that's why you want to do it, is because it stands out as differently from those things. But the thing is that whatever the bar is of the piece, it's set by how you approach the paint. Like right now, if I wanted to do the piece more expressive, I could, because there's a lot of noise that comes from the brushwork and stuff that's gone into it so far. But the smoother you make a piece, the more you limit your options in terms of how you express what you put into it. Right. So the more you make it super smooth, the more something that isn't rendered that way stands out. But when you do something rough, you can push it back and forth a lot more. So,
can't believe you painted out that circle.
Well, I'm glad that it did. Now it's not distracting me though.
I see that. We'll have to see what that turns into.
So there's some shapes and lines in here that aren't very graceful at this point, and I have to decide if I like the fact that they're not as graceful, or I want to make them more graceful in terms of rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So the more, to me, it's like the more curves and longer strokes you put into the piece, it becomes more Baroque and more like, or more Nouveau even. And whereas this has got some of that in it, but it's more linear. I mean, like straightforward almost.
Right.
You know, so it looks a little more brutal than something that would be more elegantly designed. But sometimes elegance in design is not what you're after. It's the brutal.
You're only a little late.
Who?
Demetrius.
Oh. Late's okay.
Late is okay.
We were late starting. So.
Oh, were we late starting?
Just a little.
And I can't see.
So, I was just drinking coffee.
No, I can't see what time it is.
I was just saying that every night before we start this on Saturdays, I go, I don't want to do it. And then we start it and I go, I'm glad we did that.
I know.
One of the reasons I like talking to people, especially people, in different places, is that I want to be able to learn how to verbalize a process, so that I can, when people ask me to show them how to do something, I want to be able to do it, and have the knowledge of what I'm actually doing. Because a lot of times I do things without thinking about it.
Right. Johnny asked, how can I study to make your art more realistic?
How to make more? The only way you can make art more realistic is by looking at a lot of realism and struggling and laboring over that. You have to go to, if you want to look at realism, then you either have to paint from life or paint from photographs, and you don't generally make up realism. You can fake it and make some pretty believable things, but if you want to study, if you want to be a realist, then to me, most of the time, the difference between something expressive and something realistic sometimes boils down to how much time somebody puts into it, because generally expression to me tends to be a different kind of a mindset that is more immediate and gestural, whereas realism tends to be it's heightening your observations and then translating them back and forth to what you're looking at, so
yeah.
They can be both, but
these two questions are kind of sort of linked. First, Nick said, I learned how to use black and thick shadows from observing your works. How do you develop that? And then Aid said, you're an artist. You as an artist, what do you recommend to use to sketch? Pastels or charcoal? And what's the difference of graphite and charcoal powder? It's been sketching as a hobby.
Yeah, when I sketch, I typically will I don't really use charcoal. And I almost always use graphite. Charcoal has always felt a little bit chalky to me, and that's kind of an unpleasant feeling to me. it's just something I've never really gotten over. And I have a lot of charcoal, and I intend to try it again to practice with it. I actually like sketching with ink pens, like ballpoint pens, because then I'm not tempted to render too much. You know, just in terms of production, like a sketch, something that is just shorthand for myself. Now, drawings, I almost always just go straight into the pencil. You know.
Okay. And observe. Then the gentleman that asked about black and thick shadows. How do you develop that? It's just.
Yeah, I think if I think about it, the reason that I see, you know, I use a lot of blacks and stuff is probably kind of goes back to when I was younger and would like I would emulate comic books, because comic books have like really nice in places solid black, and you can and it's a chiaroscuro, it's like the film noir kind of thing where shadows are chiseled into things. And so I did notice that I was studying a little bit of that without even thinking about it. I would look for low-key photography online, which is basically deep, dark shadows and highlights, and all the detail is in the highlight, and then it drops off into these abstract shadows, basically. And someone who does that beautifully well, you know, obviously is Mignola. And if you, check out Mike Mignola's work, if you're not familiar with it. He basically only works in dark and light.
I know, and you can see there's so much there.
Yeah, I always want to look. I always look at this stuff and I go, I want to draw that. I mean, it wouldn't be any stronger if I drew it. You know, it would just be different, because his work can't really be more powerful. Well, it's not. I would say powerful. It couldn't be more powerful if you added a gray to it.
No, than the way he does it. Right.
Yeah.
Corey said that thing has a belly button. That means it was birthed from something.
It was. And I intentionally did that, and you're the first person to say that, because a lot of the things that I draw that are characters like this don't have belly buttons.
Ah.
So.
Dee says she gives you props for painting with gloves. You wouldn't be able to feel through that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I try to get used to stuff that probably is good for me, you know, because look at my hands already. I mean, I would already have a lot of, you know, Burt, Sienna, and Umber on my hands, which those are not the most dangerous paints, but, and like also drawing on a maul stick at first I was resistant to that, but then I was like, if I'm going to paint, I can't leave my hand on it, so I might as well learn how to draw with it too. So when I draw at my desk, I actually draw on a maul stick as well as paint with it. So I figure like that there's a lot of stuff like that that is hard to do, but if you tell yourself, I'm just gonna do it, whether it's hard or not, and get over it. For myself, that's the way I look at it. You know, it becomes easier once you start forgetting that it's there.
Right.
If you can. Some people can't. Some people, you know, absolutely cannot. They don't like wearing gloves or anything like that. And to be honest, like 80% of the time, I forget to put them on. But you know, it'd be irresponsible to do it online and not show gloves.
Right.
Because this is the way you should do it. That's probably 50-50. Because I just buy the cheap Walmart gloves, and it basically just keeps the stuff off my hands. I'm not sure if these are the best ones to get or not, but they're the ones that are close.
Yeah. Carlo asked, did you start drawing as a child, like Maeve? Maeve?
I did. In fact, like some of the earliest drawings that I have were birthday cards that I made for my mother, which every kid does, right? I made books about dinosaurs chasing my mother through her birthday. You know,
I remember that.
You know, so yeah, I started like around 3 years old, and to be honest, my drawings look exactly like everyone else's at 3.
That's true.
They didn't really start looking any different than what your average person could generally do until probably when I started becoming a teenager and had been drawing long enough.
Yeah.
That they started, and I just stuck with it. The thing that I see that is the most important thing for people when they start drawing is that if they just don't ever give up at it, if they don't ever quit, they'll get better. And it doesn't, and that's no matter when you start, whether you're 50 or 4, you know. No, but nothing. There's only. I mean, Russian roulette is the only thing that you really can't practice. Not
Thank
for
you
real.
for that.
You know?
It goes with the cleaver you got in the mail today.
Hey, that's reference.
I know it's reference.
That's not the strangest thing that's going to come in the mail in the next 2 days. By the way.
Oh Lordy, look at the camera, not me, dude.
Well, you're the one that was talking about the cleaver.
I know.
And I'm only looking down because that's how I see her, through the bottom part of my body.
Oh, your bifocals. It's like it's already been a half an hour.
Is it?
Yep, it's only.
Oh, and I got about 2 years ago, I lost my wedding ring in Alameda in California, And Vicki just got me this from Into the Fire Jewelry, which is this
know.
it looks graphite.
Yeah,
So
it's
I have my new
beautiful piece.
I'm married again. So
Oh, you had so much fun with that ring. Not that one, the other one.
They make beautiful jewelry though.
Oh yeah.
So if you want
Into
like
the Fire jewelry.
they make realistic. I mean, I don't generally like skull jewelry, but they make these beautiful realistic skulls that actually look like little tiny human skulls on a ring, but they're made out of like a graphite colored metal like that.
Yeah. Demetrius says, "Thank you for being so generous."
Oh, you were very welcome.
Your time.
Very welcome.
How did you get into digital painting? Nick asked, how did you get into digital painting drawing? Most of the artists that I look up to avoid learning that medium. Oh my God, he bought a Cintiq when it first came out
I wanted
to work
to do
on
digital.
something. Didn't work on it
I had
for
a
6
Cintiq
months.
sitting in my house for a long time.
For 6 months.
then
And then it had
suddenly
something done
it was,
to do.
No, it was the Roots book. The
Book of Angels.
The Book of Angels. I got somebody asked me to help them finish illustrating a book that was coming out through Barnes & Noble. And I figured the only thing that made sense to me was because Cintiqs are literally putting your hand on there and drawing, that's the closest thing to what I do. So that's what I started with. So for a lot of people, drawing on the screen digitally is weird. They like the tablet off to the side. But for me, I never was able to get used to the tablet off to the side.
Yeah, because we had a couple of those.
But I took to the Cintiq like it was great. Now there's some cheaper versions of that out there that people need to know about too. There's a $500 version of a Cintiq that's fairly large.
Yeah.
I forget the brand name of it, but if you look up Cintiq alternatives, it'll show up.
Yeah. And he uses that for most of the contract work.
Yeah. But the first real
digital stuff.
Yeah. But I just sort of...
you did that one piece like in a night.
But how I learned how to do digital stuff though, that was doing those when I first started, it wasn't the books. It was going and doing the monthly challenge at conceptart.org.
Oh, conceptart.org. That's right. And he would do monthly challenge. You know, like
the character or
what
creature
is
of the month.
June Faye and Mermay and stuff like that. And
well,
I know that's not the way concept art worked, but
concept art was like they added a creature of the week and a character of the week, and then they would vote on them, and it would be like a little contest, and there was not really any prize other than people like giving you respect or whatever. But
it was just to
attribute that to actually changing the way that I was thinking about things, because I started feeling like before I did the digital stuff and got into it, I felt like I was sort of out of the loop in terms of what people were doing in terms of illustration and art.
Right.
And that's because I didn't really live around people that actually did it. But when I started doing the digital stuff, it was all online. Again, the social media thing really, really helped. Helped me anyway.
All right, a couple more questions. Oh, you know what? It's like halfway through. We have our website, which is alanwilliamsstudio.com. These go up on YouTube, which is also an Alan Williams Studio. Our Facebook page is Alan Williams Art, and we also have a Patreon, if you guys want to check that out, patreon.com/Alan Williams. Here's a question. Do you use the burnt sienna to mix a full range of warm grays, or are you using it as a color to add emphasis to particular areas?
So rather than burnt sienna, this is raw umber. Okay. And I use raw umber because it is very warm and it tends to lean towards gray already. And I understand value way more than I understand color. So which is not a surprise.
That is not a surprise. No.
But the thing is that that's why I use it, because I tend to be able to control the shift from warm to cool with it, because there's raw umber and burnt umber, which are different.
Right. Different
colors.
And
I know that saying a color is warm and saying a color is cool is sort of it's common. It's the way people talk about it. It's sort of just a shorthand way of saying that they're colors that shift towards blue or colors that shift towards red.
Right.
Dee
asks, what are your favorite mediums to work with? And thank you for doing this.
I love oil, even though, like I've said this before, everything I do frustrates me until I get almost done with it, and I'm happy with it for a while, and then I go back and start to do the self-assessment, and where you go, I did this well, but I didn't do this well. But I like oil a lot, and I like oil and graphite are my two favorite mediums. I actually like acrylic too, except that acrylic I feel even more stressed about because it dries so fast that I have to really know what I'm doing before I start. But it's really cool to underpaint with it, because you can, especially if you allow yourself to make a lot of general shapes and stuff, which is what I do. But I still tend to think when I do color, I still tend to think in value first. And I had read somewhere that most of painting was considering value before everything else, and then that you could actually do a painting with almost random colors if all of the values were correct. And from what I've seen, that's pretty much true. It just depends on the kind of painting you want to do.
This is more than he's talked to me all week, everybody.
That's more than I've talked to anybody all week.
Peter,
except no, Duncan and I had a really good conversation about Harry Potter lore last night.
Oh my God, I fell asleep during that.
Yeah. And
Peter Koenig says hi.
Oh, hey Peter. Wow, I haven't talked to you. I hope you're doing well. Doing well. I haven't talked to Peter in a long time. Peter, if you don't know Peter Koenig's work, check it out. He's a sculptor. He does a lot of really beautiful sculpts and stuff.
He wants to know when you're going to work together again.
Oh, I would love anytime. Yeah, Peter and I worked together when we worked on Mountains of Madness for Del Toro when he was pitching that in 2010, I think it was. And Peter does a lot of has probably got maybe 30 or 40 movie credits, or if not more.
Countless.
He's worked on everything.
Fantastic.
Lots of beautiful. I think he worked on Arrival. Didn't you? If he's still there, maybe Peter will answer. Didn't you work on Arrival, Peter?
Which we finally... Oh my God, I finally watched It.
Yeah. Oh, the new It?
The new It last Saturday. I was so freaked out.
I like that movie. Yeah.
Pete says, yes, long ago. He said, oh my God, so long ago.
Yeah, but it was a great movie and everybody loved it. So.
I think he's talking about what you... Oh.
I was talking about Arrival.
He's talking about how long ago you guys worked together.
Oh, that was 2010, yeah.
Oh, it was long ago.
That was a long time ago.
He said, but they didn't use his alien.
Yeah, but you might have had... I mean, you probably had influence, though. I'm sure. I think, didn't...
I loved Arrival.
Carlos worked on that, too, I believe. Juante. So... But... I think... But Peter's work... He's done a lot of creatures in movies that we've seen, though.
I need to turn the AC down here. It's hot.
What? You're hot?
I'm always hot. Oh, I just noticed that thing on the shoulder.
Which one? The bones?
Yeah, that's like... No, the one the scooped one. Right there. Yeah, that one right there.
Well, that just came out last night. Actually, this morning, just before I went to bed.
Ah.
I go to bed at about 7:30 in the morning.
He said Juante beat him out, yeah.
Well, I've worked with Carlos on like one or two things, sometimes in the same room, sometimes not. He always beats everybody out, so that's not really... I mean, he's a great designer, so... But so are you.
How did you come up with the concept for this painting?
For this?
And dope work.
So I was saying this earlier, and I don't seem to have them out now. But I actually started with there was a head that I was drawing that was like a female head with a protrusion off of it that was this thing. And then I was like looking at that shape, and it turned into kind of a mirrored image of itself and turned into a form.
Yeah, you flipped through them.
And then as I was actually here's one of the concepts for this on the floor that we're standing on. So it was this at one point, and then as I laid this out, it changed. As I was drawing this onto my board, it turned into what's on my board now.
Yes.
So it went through iterations and evolved into different ways. Quite a far distance from what it started out.
Yes.
But that's the benefit of doing your own work. You can go in any direction. It's deceiving in a way because nobody really lets you do much of that when you're doing contract work because they really want to see what they're going to get.
Right.
And if you start off with a female head, they wouldn't be happy if they got this.
No.
If they approve the female head, they wouldn't want this.
Actually, I usually approve the female head, and then he comes back with this.
Right. So, in the end, there will be probably an element somewhere on this piece of an anchored piece of realism somewhere, because I like adding that into a piece, because I feel like it helps a person who's viewing it kind of it increases their ability to what do you call it, suspension of disbelief, because when you look at a painting, there has to be a certain level of suspension of disbelief to believe the scene within it. Right.
You have to.
It's just like in a movie, Right. So I have to set the bar somewhere for what I want, and then, like in some pieces, I'll add like the hands and feet in different ways. With this one, I might add a figure somewhere, a humanish figure, and I haven't decided yet. But I've been playing with it.
Pete says, "Lovely seeing you live."
Oh man, thanks, and it's good hearing from you too.
Adrian asked, "How long does a painting roughly this size you're working on take to complete?
I feel like this one's probably going to take a solid, from beginning to end, from when I started it at least. It'll be 2 weeks from beginning to end.
No, I'll make him get it.
Well, it depends. It's been like 6 days. I'm gonna shoot for like
be done before
12,
next Saturday.
10 days. Yeah, before next Saturday.
Yeah, we'll see if he's done before next Saturday.
So that's
Robert Elrod says hi.
Oh, hello, Robert Elrod. That's the Robert Elrod we know, obviously.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's more than one in the world.
Well, that's true.
But
and someone asked, your work is beautiful. Do you ever have dreams in your paintings you create? Do any of your paintings relate to dreams that you've had?
You know what? Not in the way of dreams that I have like where I'll sit and stare off into space, and it's a daydream, right? But they more relate to those than they do to the dreams I have when I'm asleep. I think my mind is actually dealing with more straightforward issues when I dream. My dreams don't look like this. My dreams look like pretty normal, but I wonder. It makes me wonder if people, when they used to say they had visions, that maybe that what they had, some people, not everybody, but maybe some people were having just very powerful waking daydreams, and if not, and if there really is a difference between the two, because this kind of thing to me, that's how it happens. It's almost like more of a stream of consciousness type thing.
Yeah, Adrian, full-time painting? Well, he does not work like 12 hours a day painting.
No, I'll do like all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I'll work on this, but it's anywhere from...
Go get a coffee.
Yeah. I would say it would be like anywhere, like a normal, like a 6 to 10 hour day painting.
Right.
It depends.
Until someone comes in and talks to you. We have one kid going off to camp this week, so...
Yeah.
That means the other kid will probably talk more.
Well, we've been talking about how...
The problem is he's up at your hours now, and so you don't get...
Yeah, Duncan is a night owl, so he stays up till 3 or 4 in the morning during the summer, and just wanders in and out of my room talking about random gaming aspects, which is... I love it. Vicky kind of hates it because he doesn't get up till...
He does it at 11:30 at night when I'm like half asleep.
Yeah,
they got into a giant, huge... Harry Potter...
We were discussing whether or not things like boggarts could be the product of Obscurus from Harry Potter, which are the repression of magic. And
Yes.
So we were just coming up with our own fan theories.
It was a deep conversation, and then they both wake up at like 3 this afternoon, and it was strictly straight back into the same conversation about something else.
No, it was zombies. It was completely different. That's completely different.
I know, but it was the whole... I know.
We were discussing whether or not a zombie who has to, if it's a viral zombie and you have to disconnect the nervous system, that if you kicked them in the nads, would they feel it or not? Because the nervous system's obviously...
Wait, I missed that part. Because you know what? I'm in my office working, trying to video edit last week's episode of this to get it up. And then they're having this huge discussion, and I can't even concentrate because you were talking about kicking zombies in the nads.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, there's a huge difference between viral zombies and supernatural zombies, all right?
Yes, I do. We have discussed that.
Viral zombies you can deal with. Supernatural zombies are hard.
No, you're screwed. Rule number 1. Cardio. We would fail. We'd be eaten right. Thanks for answering my question. I think it's interesting that although you are working primarily with value, you're still considering the temperature of the grays and the deeper blacks.
I'm trying to. It's. I guess you could say that's my tentative way of backing into color. Mm-hmm. Is by thinking about the temperature first, and as I progress with this, things might get more and more colorful. Because I have done full color pieces before, but I tend to get to a point where I'm like, I only want to think in value right now, and that's okay. I'll do a tonal.
He's working in oil, and if it's a monochromatic oil, that's okay.
But I once read that, there were academic painters that said drawing and painting were the same thing, and you should approach them the same in terms of value. And I thought I'll give that a shot, and so I stopped painting for a long time and just did drawing, and then came back to painting with, with a better knowledge of drawing. Mm-hmm. And it seems like, for the most part, what I read was true, as it primarily most of the painting happens in the value stage, and that the paint itself becomes very critical, but it also is minimal when concerning the readability of an image in terms of an image like this. If it's not too gestural or too expressive,
Michael, you were asking who are his favorite artists and who influences. We can name off a couple, but it's also on our facts, frequently asked questions. I've got it up there.
And I have it in my. There's a book that I have in the other room that I started a list.
Right, but besides Geiger, Beksinski,
I've been looking a lot at the
Bouguereau
there's a
and
contemporary
Waterhouse and
contemporary Nicola Samori.
Solomon J. Solomon.
But
some of these are listed up on the website though too. So
Hans Bellmer. I still love a lot of the old traditional classical guys like Bouguereau, Tadema, Leighton, Jerome.
I know we're naming them off, but they are on the website. How do you feel about people getting tattoos of your work?
I love it. I think it's great. I don't have a problem with it.
We usually like to see pictures.
I like to see them at the end. Yeah, I have people ask all the time, and it's I think it's a great compliment. Mm-hmm. And it's not like if you're asking if I feel like they're taking something from me. I don't feel that way. Right. I feel like.
Our website is Alan Williams Studio.
Yeah,
sorry, Michael.
Doesn't bother me.
Alan Williams Studio is the website. The YouTube channel is also under Alan Williams Studio. Our Facebook page is Alan Williams Art. And our Patreon is patreon.com/Alan Williams. And it's kind of a basic Patreon and nothing too crazy or high priced or anything. And
well, I just preview. We preview a lot of stuff there, and we'll do some. We do shorter, I'll do sometimes these short 10-minute videos in the morning when she wakes up and just before I go to bed, where I talk about what I've been doing. Mm-hmm. Not unlike this, but it's just they tend to happen on a more regular basis on the Patreon. So.
The Sunken Anchor said she got a Divine Imperfection tattoo.
Oh, really?
Ooh, now you got to send us a picture of it.
Will you send us a picture of it, please?
Yes.
I would love to see it.
We got 10 more minutes. Look, you just fly through this.
I've been, that's one of the underlying themes of a lot of the stuff that I do is, and the other part of that besides divine imperfection, which is to say that the things that we find to be flaws are also the things that make us most human, and. I had this discussion again with Duncan about the fact that maybe to exist in this universe, the only thing you have to have is to be flawed. A perfect being can't exist in a universe that isn't built for perfection. Mm-hmm. So we have discussions like that. But the other part of that was...
They're going to think you never actually talk to me.
I do talk to you. It's just that you're normally asleep and unresponsive. The other part of that.
Hey, Barbara.
The other part of that, though, was the thing that we've been talking about lately about beautiful demons and ugly angels, and how we tend as a culture to gravitate towards the beautiful demons and not understand that there's a difference, and that something good for you and divine might appear very like this.
Right.
That you can't look at a person and say they're good or bad by what they look like. That I've seen people who you would, if you read them as a stereotype, you would say that guy is a criminal or a thief, but he might be the only guy in the crowd that would take a bullet for you.
Right.
So that's a part of it. Part of it is reassessing, because I think that underlying thing when people start going, oh, this is ugly, this is obviously a demon, is an assumption that starts when people are young. That people think that the way something looks indicates its nature. Right.
And we all know that's a
not
lie.
True. So.
Okay, at some point we want to see the person who records these videos. I will not wear pajamas next week.
You're very relaxed right now.
I know, I'm wearing my pajamas already and because I was working outside. At some point I will turn the camera around.
She's way prettier than I am, by the way. So.
Oh no. Do you add Alkyd mediums to speed up the drying time of the oil paint?
I do. I use Alkyd and Liquin mixed with stand oil and a little bit of Gamsol. Yeah.
Everybody get that real quick?
So,
say it again.
I use Alkyd medium and Liquin mediums mixed with a stand oil.
Alkyd?
Yeah. Mixed with stand oil and a little...
there's a stand oil.
And a little Gamsol.
wherever the Gamsol is.
It's Gamsol, just a thinner.
And the Gamsol. Ta-da! All mixed in there. You notice I have little labels. Look, watercolor supplies. It never stays there. My attempts to organize him end in this beautiful painting. That's okay. That's fine.
Well, we talked about this earlier. You know,
Yeah.
there are times when the
said.
room has to be. I go through and together or whatever we'll clean the room. But other times, it just feels unwelcome.
No, actually, technically what he said was that he said it doesn't feel like a working studio if it's too clean.
If it's too clean, it doesn't feel like it's working. Yeah.
Barbara said that's what she needs is stand oil. Thank you.
Stand oil thickens it and lengthens the drying time a little bit, but still makes it feel like a nice fluid oil.
Right.
And it's a thicker oil than just straight up linseed oil. Stand oil, obviously, by its name, it means it's oil that's allowed to dry to a certain degree, so it's a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
But when you mix it with that and the Gamsol, it ends up feeling pretty fluid. So see, other than this, probably most of what I've done has been like almost invisible, because it's all been playing with details while I've been thinking about what I'm doing.
Down there.
Yeah. So I'll also take a photograph of this, and I'll take it into Photoshop, and I'll play with where the deeper shadows are digitally, so that I can map out what I'm going to do in the middle of the piece. This is not a complicated composition, all right? It's just a central figure, but there are things that I want to happen in it. Like I want things to move around visually from light to light to light, and then the darks to make a sense. So.
Like
if it were more complicated composition, I would have to plan it more thoroughly.
Like walnut oil? Is walnut oil? That's
I have some walnut oil, and I like it just fine. I just haven't used much of it. I just have gone with the I guess you could say I went with like more standard oils that I read about, but walnut oil would be fine.
Yeah. Like Wagamiti. I'm sorry, I can't read. I don't even think it's kanji. If you can translate the question and email it to us, though.
Yeah. Any questions that are in a language that we don't read, which is all of them.
I do apologize.
I would love to get an email so that we could take some time and translate them and try to get back to the people.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can even send us the question in that language, in your language, and we'll do the translation ourselves. Because I like
email is easier than Instagram. I can't even from the Instagram messages. I cannot even copy it over to a text thing, as far as I can figure it out. Mainly liquid and Alkyd, small parts of stand oil and Gamsol.
It's pretty much it's a 1:1:1. I'm using equal parts ratio in those. A little less of the Gamsol because that'll make it really thin.
Gotcha.
Play with it until you get a consistency you like. That's
Yes.
what it was.
Do you see his construct of his easel here? The actual easel's back here. I had to take pictures for someone. They IM'd me. See, there's the actual easel. The board is attached to it. Another board is attached.
And then I have the rail up here that holds
The rail that holds the other board in.
This is actually meant to go flat onto this for thinner boards.
Oh, yeah.
But since these boards are these are 2
Oh, yeah,
inches
those are
thick,
2-inch thick
and,
ones.
I threw this up here so that when I slide it, it won't
doesn't
ride on
get
the edge
on
of
the
this,
edge.
it'll ride on the edge
Oh.
of this. So.
Yes, Nick said so. What he was going to ask if you use digital media to figure a way the painting is going.
I do, all the
Absolutely, he's
time.
done that for a long time.
All the time. I feel like that's one of the best uses of. I mean, if you're doing traditional work, that
Bye, Clarence.
Digital studies are like it's an amazing thing to have access to these days because you can do things like shoot photographs in the middle of a piece and composite what you want to look at and then go back and paint it if you want, or you can just sketch on top of it, and then
Figure out what's going on. Iranga said, "Do you ever feel like making works more luminous subjects, or do you prefer to stay always in the dark?"
Okay, so this is kind of what I was talking about. I feel I'm perfectly accustomed. The only way I can say this is that I'm perfectly accustomed to the dark, and that I don't feel a lack of divine or luminous quality in it.
You don't consider it dark,
I don't consider the work to be as dark as other people do,
right?
because in my experience of the world,
It's the lighter.
There are more wretched things happen in the light of day than in the dark of night. And so,
ooh, that's good. Somebody write it down.
Well, it's the truth. To assume, I mean, and I don't feel bad about people when they ask me this because it's a natural assumption.
Sure.
But I don't bind luminous characters to a human construct of beauty.
Right.
I kind of let things go where they may, and let the nature of the character determine when I paint it what it's going to be.
A lot of your imagery are guardians, though, right?
They're almost always some form of a guardian figure, and very often they're angelic. They just don't look like the kind of angels most people think.
No, they're not the 1970s.
And if you look at actual angelic lore, you'll read that, and you probably have, or somebody, there may be people that have. You'll read that there are some very terrifying descriptions of actual biblical images. Not to mention the ones that are described in, like, say, apocryphal things like the Book of Enoch, where they talk about angels having savage weapons.
Right.
So that being said, I do occasionally feel the need to do something traditionally pretty and beautiful.
Right.
I just don't look at it and say this is automatically a good character because it's beautiful.
Right.
I
like that you're getting deep.
Oh, well, thanks.
Adrian says, thank you for sharing all of this stuff. He's working on a painting as you watch this and definitely applying it to his current method.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope anything, if there's anything that I do that can help, I'm happy about that. And if you ever want to ask me another question that I wasn't clear on, email us and I'll answer it. We'll get back to it and answer it for you. I do have other size brushes, by the way. I don't always paint with a line. This is like a number 2 Series 7 Sable. But I like I've told Vicki this morning, I like I think they're called cat lick.
The cat licks.
Yeah. These things that have they have a rounded, like a filbert, but with a point. Can you see it? Or is it better on the side?
That's what stopped moving it.
It's like a rounded, and I have different sizes of these all the way up to larger brushes, but
stacks of brushes.
See, and I'm rough on brushes, and I like painting with them, especially when they get really stiff and they start making streaks and lines. So.
Yeah. Do you often give them 6 fingers, your angelic beings?
I do. I occasionally I will give them any number of odd digits or limbs, because to me the physical manifestation of something like this is merely there as an anchor for an interaction of communication.
Right.
And it's not confined to having to have organs or having to pick up things or having to do anything. I mean, if it's a divine force, it doesn't even really need a body, right? And it's only there for us to, I guess, to relate to in some way. But.
And he always paints better when it's storming.
I do. I only ever feel truly calm when there's a storm outside. I don't know why. It's almost like there's some sort of a weird. It's a primal, communication between the world and what I'm doing. I don't know. I have a good imagination. That's all I can say. I'm perfectly willing to accept that most of what I think is just stuff born out of my imagination.
It's mostly what you draw to.
Yeah.
Yes, I am going to find. It's probably almost time to wrap this up, you guys. It'll cut us off in an hour, and it's been about an hour. I found the Neil Gaiman, and I sent it to myself, the interview where he talks about where do you get your ideas from, and I will link that sometime. It was great because it comes down to the simple fact that he went, it's not like it's loads of sketchbooks and everything, but it's my imagination, and it's what I think of when I'm bored and when I'm looking out into the trees. And
right. Where does it come from? We don't know.
We don't know. It just is. It's my imagination. It's from my head. Yeah. Oh, it is the time.
It's everything. Is it over?
No, it's got 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
So you guys have a good week, and we will talk to you later.